Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this. Doomsday, issue number 1. Doomsday Clock. So I'll start off by saying this. I liked Alan Moore's run on Watchmen. I read the whole thing. I tried to read the whole thing before this issue came out. I know this is like a month late, but I decided to go ahead and jump into this just because of the simple fact that later this week issue number 2 is coming out. So I just wanted to go ahead and give my brief thoughts. This will probably be my last video tonight. So there's a lot going on in this comic. We know at the end of the last issue, Rorschach dies, right? Dr. Manhattan takes him out because he's going to reveal the whole secrets to the world. Leaves it open-ended, then maybe they find his journal and it gets released. The whole plan of Ozymandias, right? So apparently, it does get released. This picks up not too long. Maybe it says 1992. So a few years after the original graphic novel wraps up. It's actually kind of funny because it says November 22nd. The comic came out November 22nd. It's November 22nd. It's a pretty important date, I guess, in the Watchmen universe. I gotta say that I really do like the art. It's who does the art? Who did the art in this comic? I gotta look at that again. I'm trying to look inside here. It doesn't really say it. The cover's really nice. I got the lenticular cover with Rorschach on it. It's got like the 3 images. It changes back and forth. Thought that was pretty neat. Gary Frank, yeah, Gary Frank's the illustrator. He's got some really good art. I don't know if I've seen his art in other comics before. Maybe I have and I just didn't recognize it. But it's really good. And another thing I noticed, this is there's no ads in this comic. I know a lot of people will point that out. There's no ads. It's just a solid story. No breaks, no interruptions. It really helps with the immersion as well. And the paper has this. It's not newsprint, but it's not really glossy like you see in a lot of comics. And it's got the whole 9-panel layout. I appreciate that, how they stuck with that, the same format. Although it does kind of change a little bit from time to time. The sizes change, which is neat. I think it kind of works, especially when Rorschach shows up, and you're thinking, what? How's that possible? The guy should be dead, right? Well, apparently in this comic, the way it's written, there's another guy that takes on the mantle of Rorschach. He goes and rescues these 2 characters. I think one of the guys' name is the Mime, and some other character they need them to help with something. So you go through here. Rorschach breaks him out. I really like how they stick with his the whole way that he speaks. Rorschach has this very unique, I don't know, just unique way that he talks that no one else does. That I think is really important for the writers to nail, and I think they did a pretty good job with that. It's a little different. He kind of has like this snarky humor. I don't really remember Rorschach having really much of any humor. Maybe he had some dry, witty banter every now and then, but it was real dry humor. But going through this, the colors are really good. Man, the art, I really do like the art. This guy Gary Frank is really good. I think right now of new artists that I've found out about, they're probably not new, but they're new to me. Gary Frank, Jason Fabcock, I really like. Sean Gordon Murphy is amazing. His Batman White Knight run's really good. I might go ahead and I'm definitely going to review that when I get the chance when the next issue comes out. I've been following it along for a while, but let's get back onto this. So apparently they go find this hidden shelter in the subway or is in the sewers, and voila! Apparently Ozymandias is alive, and you're kind of like, wow, they're in the Owl's secret headquarters under his apartment, and apparently Rorschach and Ozymandias are working together, and you would think that's not possible, and that's when you get the reveal that Rorschach is not the Rorschach we know, which I actually liked. I know some people have been really divided on that whole issue of like what they ruined the character, but I think it's important that Rorschach died because I mean, how weird would that be? You go through that whole original graphic novel and Rorschach's dies at the end of it and he shows back up again. You're like, okay, well, what was the point of his whole sacrifice of him dying no matter what, or putting his life on the line to make sure that the truth comes out? So I've kind of had some theories going on. I need to go back and check of who this new Rorschach could be. I think that's probably going to be something they'll probably reveal maybe in the next couple issues. But that's something that's really interesting to me, and the fact that Ozymandias, who's like the genius, peak human condition of, not perfect but athletic genius, although he's really arrogant, and he's got this whole thing where he's like he can fix all the world's problems, and clearly that did not happen. It all fell apart really quick, and he's got a brain tumor. That's something that they point out. So at the very moment they kind of put him on a short timeline that I guess somewhere in this book or towards the end of this run of the whole 12 issues, not this single issue, but the whole story, that he'll probably die somewhere in the story or towards the end. But apparently there's this mission that he's got planned, and it does make a reference to the last issue when Ozymandias talks to Dr. Manhattan. He's like, did I do the right thing? And he says, well, at the end, and I think I can't remember exactly how they said it, but the way it was phrased, he says, it never ends, there is no ending. And that's when Dr. Manhattan disappears. So they kind of have a little quick flashback kind of touching on that, and I appreciate that. I like that. I think it's one of those things where maybe it was a good idea for me to read the original Watchmen graphic novel before getting into this, just because of the simple fact that a lot of things are kind of still fresh on my mind. But there was so much stuff in there. That graphic novel was really dense. Even when you finished the story, there were still news clippings on backstories of characters, reports, even like advertisements for like Silk Spectre, how she got this movie deal, and her relationship with her husband, and Night Owl, the original Night Owl, how he became a superhero, and how the Minutemen formed up. There was so much stuff. It was a really rich world that Alan Moore had built up, and I really appreciate that world building. It feels like there's a lot going on in the background, a lot of meat. I always like when they do that, spend that extra time. I mean, because he didn't have to do that, but I really appreciate that effort. So going through this, we get to apparently the car wreck that kills his parents. I don't remember that in his original origin story. I thought his Pa Kent had a heart attack. Maybe I missed something with the New 52, or maybe this is Dr. Manhattan messing around with stuff. But Clark Kent goes to prom. He's got this whole teenage angst thing that's going on, and it ends with I think his best friend Pete dances with Lana Lang. It's the car wreck, and Superman wakes up from a nightmare, which they make a big deal about that. Don't know why him having a nightmare is such a weird thing, but I mean, I've never actually seen Superman have a nightmare, so maybe this is a point to say, wow, whatever this is, Superman's afraid. So that should show us that something's about to go down. Yeah, because at the last panel it says, I don't think I've ever had one. He says, I can't remember the last time I had a nightmare. It says, I don't think I've ever had one. And there's this quote by Ozymandias. He meets some fragment huge, and stops to guess what powerful but unrecorded race once dwelt in that annihilated place. That's one of those quotes you had to read a couple times. So they kind of keep the same format from the original run of the comic. You even get some cool newspaper clippings, and I think they were pushing this thing about pancake batter and syrup. They actually include some of these things in here with the New York Gazette. There's bits and pieces, same newspaper clippings. You even get some stuff about the Joe's diner menu, and you can tell this is not the 90s. It's like, man, for a stack of pancakes, $2. Milk 60 cents. Oh man, I wish stuff was cheap like that now. But yeah, I really enjoyed this issue. I know some people did not like this. It's been pretty divisive, but I really appreciate the writing, the art, the time they spend in this. Hopefully the next issue doesn't have ads, and there'll still be like these supersized issues, but I think the next issue is still going to be $5 or $6. So yeah, it's a little bit more expensive. I think it's the same price as X-Men: The Grand Design. I haven't gotten to read that, but I really do want to check that out. Hopefully, there'll be a copy at my comic book shop this week. If not, I'll have to download it on Comixology, and I'll probably go ahead and review that sometime later this week as well. It'll probably be around maybe Thursday or Friday, depending when I can pick it up. But yeah, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe. Let me know what you think. What did y'all enjoy this comic? Did you hate it? You not really care about it? Yeah, go ahead. Let me know what you think.